Hola, cage fighting connoisseurs. This is KidNativeBloodyElbow.com, joined by Zane Simon for the 6th round of UFC 187. Easily the best cage fighting event, combat sports event of the year, maybe 2 years. I can't remember what's the best card since the Dan Henderson versus Shogun Rua. This was an incredible card. Zane Simon, thoughts on the card?
Yeah, no, this was great. Every fight from the main card delivered. Yeah, I mean, sometimes everything just works, even when, and this is one of those cards I think where when you get fights that all have a favorite, that are all a bit one-sided, that all have somebody that's expected to win. You get a lot of underdogs that overperform and do better than expected. And then when one of those underdogs does win, it's huge. Like the Andre Arlovski beating Travis Browne.
Yes.
That was just totally insane.
And the fact that Browne dropped Arlovski and Arlovski managed to recover. I mean, I knew that chin was sitting there waiting to be tapped, and Browne did it, but wasn't enough. Every fight had momentum swings. That's the stuff, boy. That's what gets your adrenaline going, and the stakes. And when Rumble Johnson pasted Cormier to open the fight and sends him flying across the cage, oh my God! And still manages. Cormier managed to survive and come back. I was going to say Rumble managed to get beat, but Cormier won. It wasn't that Rumble got beat. It's that Cormier whipped his ass, and that was an amazing feat. And the Belfort Weidman fight, oh my God, just incredible. We should quickly tell people what happened for those who didn't get to see the show. Daniel Cormier beat Anthony Johnson by a rear naked choke. Chris Weidman beat, and that was in the 3rd round. Chris Weidman beat Vitor Belfort TKO, 1st round, 2 minutes 53. Donald Cerrone beat John Makdessi. Andre Arlovski beat Travis Browne in the 1st round TKO. Joseph Benavidez had the only decision of the main card, beating John Moraga. But let's talk about Daniel Cormier and Anthony Johnson. I mean, first punch, enormous, but Cormier survived, got the takedown, rinse and repeat. Each round, Rumble had his moments. Couldn't stop Cormier from taking him down.
Yeah, I mean, it almost feels like now that for the past couple fights, Rumble knows exactly what he's fighting for, and it seems like that maybe is getting in his head. Like he's fighting, he's an awesomely talented fighter, but he's not fighting smart fights. Like when he beat Phil Davis, he fought basically a perfect fight where all he did was just wait for Davis to come to him, shuck off the takedown attempt, and then land hard kicks and punches and just eat Davis up. In the Gustafsson fight, he just blitzed Gus, and it worked. But that's not necessarily, that doesn't mean that doesn't make it smart, because you see the same thing. He did the same thing here against Cormier. He just came out and blitzed him, and just like
it worked until it didn't.
It worked until it didn't, and when it didn't work, he didn't have anything left to keep going. And
having Daniel Cormier on top of you, and having Daniel Cormier body locking you and throwing you down repeatedly in succession, having Daniel Cormier fly across the cage like that and then survive and get up to take you down, I can't imagine how disheartening that has to be. Having Daniel Cormier on top of you working a Kimura over and over again, that's got to be terrifying, and that kind of adrenaline dump just saps the life right out of a fighter. And my hat's off to Daniel Cormier. I mean, anybody could get punched like that and still be coherent and lucid, throughout the fight, and come back and win and call out John Jones with the perfect call out. John Jones, get your shit together. I want you. I mean, that is doing, that's going to be a big fight. And I hope John Jones is somewhere getting his shit together right now.
Yeah, you gotta hope so. And no, I mean, I think this fight, honestly, I think Cormier went through more in this fight than he did against Jones. Like, I think Jones wore him down and had more of that
broke his spirit.
Yeah, John Jones had the big brother effect where he was just like, no, there's nothing you can do to me. I'll just be out ahead of you the whole time. But Johnson put a beating on Cormier, and Cormier really had to come back from that. It wasn't like, it wasn't that same sort of confidence, but it was just, Cormier ate like 3 or 4 head kicks, one of which really looked like it straightened his legs.
Yeah, he looked in the second round of that head kick. He looked seriously hurt. He was hurt badly in the first round to start it off, and he was even touched a little bit in the third round. I mean, it was a mean, nasty confrontation between two incredibly powerful, scary dudes, and it was the beauty of MMA right here because Rumble had it on the feet, Cormier had it on the ground, and it was all a matter of who controlled the transition. And there for a moment when Johnson slipped and then went for the takedown, it looked like he might have been able to serve a little bit on Cormier, but ultimately you don't want to be clinched up with Cormier, and Cormier reversed it and took him down and just beat him.
Yeah, it's just like I say. It feels like he spent, everything for him was about coming forward and like proving that he can take the fight to Cormier and get him out of there quickly, and that just seemed like, I don't know, it seemed like exactly the wrong approach for DC, who, you come after him, you're giving him the chance to take you down.
Yeah, you're giving him a great chance to matador you and take your back, get behind you. Once he's got the body lock on you, tosses you around. This is the second time you snot-nosed punks have talked me out of picking somebody. I knew Cormier was going to win going into the vivisection. You guys spun such a delightful case for Rumble that I folded again. I never learned from experience.
How close to right were we, though? Like, really, really close.
Completely wrong, I believe. The winner was Dan. It's a binary thing. You either win or you lose.
Okay, well, whatever. I mean,
you go to a bookie with how close to right was I? He's still taking your money.
Well, yeah, and I'm not. I don't gamble on my shit. I mean, I know that. I mean, to me, the thrill is all about seeing how the fight unfolds. And I mean, Rumble did as well as I thought he would do. Cormier just did better than I thought he would do, frankly.
Yeah, I certainly never expected Rumble to send Cormier literally physically flying across the cage. I mean, we haven't seen anybody flung across the cage like that since Cain Velasquez and Brock Lesnar these many years ago. And that was mostly Brock's own momentum carrying him. This was a punch Rumble delivered to the side of his head, and it was beautiful. But let's talk about the middleweight title fight because it was nearly as good, maybe even better. It's hard to say. I mean, Vitor Belfort came out, tagged Chris Weidman, was flurrying with uppercuts. Weidman gets the takedown and destroyed him on the ground. It was all over in 2 minutes, 53 seconds. Thoughts on that fight?
I love Weidman as a champion. Like, we need to start like really being grateful because there are very few champs who are willing to deliver that kind of action fight every time, who are willing to say, you know what, I don't care, win or lose, I'm going out there to fight as hard as I can and finish you. And that's what Weidman does. I mean, he went out in that fight and was just like, he fought like Vitor Belfort couldn't hurt him and wouldn't, and Belfort did, but Weidman just, he gutted it out and still won, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was lovely. It was a lovely thing. You saw why Vitor Belfort is a legend of the sport, why he's feared, but you also saw Weidman. Chris Weidman is just an exceptionally gifted athlete and strategist and tactician, and he's committed to winning and getting the finish, which, like you say, is a treasure. It's you see so many champions that start that way and then eventually become content to coast to decisions when they get the opportunity. And Weidman so far is not having any of that. So that was beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, Belfort did feel like a fight where Weidman, I mean, I thought he'd win. I thought he'd dominate. But Belfort did feel like the kind of, like Jose Aldo versus Ricardo Lamas or something like that, where it's like, you can't really do anything to me. So I can just kind of coast this one out, let it go and whatever. But Weidman came out and just said, no, I want to finish this. I want to finish it as quickly as possible. And that makes it for such a fun fight.
Yeah, and Belfort, looked sharp. Nobody knows but Weidman how badly he was hurt by that exchange. After the fight, he claimed he wasn't particularly hurt, but he looked stunned and scared to me there for a few seconds. Like people I was watching it with that were Belfort fans were freaking out and thought that they had another upset on their hands.
Yeah, it was insane. It was just a crazy fight. And like I say, it's something that we don't get from a lot of champions. I mean, even Jones and Kane are taking guys to 5-round decisions half the time, and
sometimes that's the best you can possibly do. But particularly Kane, I mean, he has destroyed some guys who survived down. to the fifth round. But it just a beautiful performance from Weidman. And let's talk about Andre Arlovski and Travis Browne. We're skipping that out of order. That was the second fight on the card, and that was so beautiful. I mean, what a wild Donnybrook. Andre Arlovski looked as good as he has looked in many, many moons. And maybe that's more a function of Travis Browne having some big holes in his stand-up game.
Yeah, Travis Browne. I mean, it looks like Travis Browne's he's at that danger point in his career where, he was doing all right at Jackson Winklejohn as just sort of like a big athletic freak where he would throw out wild stuff, no real rhyme or rhythm to it, but it worked because he was the better athlete. And now he's moved away from Jackson's to a camp that's teaching him more structure. But in teaching him more structure, they're also kind of stripping out all of his old game. So he's at this point where he hasn't quite learned his new skills yet, and he doesn't have his old skills anymore. And suddenly, that's kind of that's a dangerous place to be.
Yeah, he looked very exposed against Arlovski, who reminded us all this is a guy with some of the best hand speed we've seen in the heavyweight division, slick combinations, good hooks. He's been held back by his chin, which Browne touched, but he recovered from that and got the finish and really, really looked good tonight.
Yeah, the heavyweight division's a weird thing. I mean, Andre Arlovski's now, a top 5 heavyweight in the UFC.
Zane, we might be seeing Andre Arlovski and Mirko Cro Cop fighting for the UFC heavyweight title. Come on. It can happen, right? It can. My hair's going to grow back. I'll be young again.
Winner gets Josh Barnett.
It's like 2003 again, baby. What a beautiful year. What a beautiful year. Nobody's saying that about 2003. That was a shitty year, but that's neither here nor there. But, look, Arlovski looked really good. I don't see him as a contender, and he snuffed Travis Browne as a contender for the time being. I mean,
Arlovski might get the next shot, just depending on how all this fallout goes, because, it's either him or Miocic, and he's in the position now where any injury gets him a title shot. Like,
quite possibly.
If anybody can't step up, suddenly Arlovski's going to be the guy. Like, that's where he is.
And somewhere Tim Sylvia's in a trailer in Maine, just,
Still recovering from that soccer kick, probably.
Yeah, but so that was a great fight. But let's talk about the other fights on the main card. Joseph Benavidez defeated John Moraga, flyweight fight, unanimous decision. Another really good Donnybrook, back and forth. Yeah. Benavidez won unanimously, blanked him on all the cards, won every round on all 3 cards. But Moraga hurt him several times and made it a really mean, nasty scrap.
Yeah, I kind of get the feeling we're starting to see Benavidez lose a little bit of a step. Just not quite have the dominance. I mean, he's been around for more than a decade now, so it's bound to happen sooner or later.
Yeah, and he fought at bantamweight for a long time against bigger guys. And,
yep. And I think the big thing for me is, like, it was an awesome fight. It was fantastic, great back and forth. It's just that neither guy showed anything other than what lost them the titles, the title shots. Moraga still got held down and beat up for long stretches of the fight. And Benavidez, when it was standing and in the pocket, got hit hard and a lot. And both of those are exactly what lost them their title shots against DJ. So it was a great fight. It's just too bad that it didn't really reestablish somebody as getting another shot.
The guy who's getting the next flyweight title shot was on the card too. And
yeah.
John Dodson, I thought he had lost a step against Zach Makovsky, but Makovsky looked very good. Dodson won the unanimous decision, lost a round on everybody's card. Makovsky surprised me. This was the Fox Sports 1 prelim headliner. I thought it was a really good fight, really good performance from Makovsky, and I do think Dodson has lost a step.
I don't know that he's lost a step. I scored the fight for Makovsky. Frankly,
really?
I thought he won it. Yeah. I honestly thought he won the fight. I didn't think Dodson landed any long-term significant offense, just kind of pot-shotting and getting hit more often. He landed the takedowns, but he didn't do anything with them. He didn't And the big thing I saw, though, was Makovsky finally really working behind a jab in this fight, and that seemed to really fluster Dodson a lot. When he had a jab in his face for long stretches, he couldn't figure out how to get in and throw combinations. And that was really the big thing I saw. Maybe not that Dodson lost a step, because the moment he got his hands on Makovsky in any way, his power and explosiveness were just like right there, just tossed him around. But he couldn't figure out how to close distance. And that was just a huge problem for him in this fight.
Yeah, Mikowski looked sharp. And the other main card fight we haven't talked about, Donald Cerrone knocked out John McDessie in the second round. Really good fight. McDessie way overperformed. I mean, it reminded me very much of his last fight, actually. He was getting kicked, getting lit up, but he found a way to get inside and land some good punches. But in the end, when Donald Cerrone knees and kicks you in the jaw until it snaps, what are you going to do?
Yeah, no, all the respect in the world to McDessie for just saying, no, timeout, I'm done. I
Yeah.
mean, if his jaw got shattered or broken, and then, Cerrone's not going to stop head kicking him.
No, it's
you
a
wanna be able
stupid thing to keep fighting with a broken jaw. An incredible, you could see the look on his face was just like, I got to get out of here. Get me in an ambulance. Get me to the hospital. My fucking jaw is broken.
Yeah, I mean, you want to be able to eat solid food again some point down the road in your life.
Exactly. You don't want to have a titanium plate setting off security alarms at every airport for the rest of your life. I mean, but really good fight. Cerrone looked good. I so wish Khabib Nurmagomedov could have been here, because I don't know who would have won that fight. Cerrone looked so good.
Yeah, Cerrone's looking really sharp. I mean, he's really hit a late peak in his career where everything is just finally clicking exactly the way it needs to be. I mean, it looked like he was in sparring practice out there against McDessie. He was just kind of doing whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted. McDessie looked good, performed well, stayed in the fight for a lot longer than people thought. But Cerrone won every single exchange pretty much.
Yeah. There was a few where McDessie would make a miss, land a shot, but usually by the end of it, at least with the leg kick, Cerrone would get in there and do some damage. McDessie's thigh was jacked up by the end of that fight. But let's start back from the bottom and then run up through the top. First up, flyweight, Justin Scoggins versus Josh Sampo. Unanimous decision for Scoggins. Not the kind of excitement we saw later in the card by any measure, but fun to see Scoggins. His karate style's fun. Sampo put up a good fight. Thoughts on that one?
Yeah, it was a good. There were a lot of performances early in this card where it was just sort of like, or a couple performances, I shouldn't say a lot, but a couple of just like a young prospect getting work, getting rounds, and getting a good win. And that's really what this was for Scoggins. Sampo was kind of just hung out on the edge of striking range and was there to be hit for most of the fight, and it really gave Scoggins a chance to look good and try out his, all of his striking tricks and work his game for 3 rounds. And it's a great win. So
yeah,
I'm glad
it's a
for
fun
it.
game to watch. Yeah, it was a good one. And then debut of the night, definitely Islam Makhachev, teammate of Khabib Nurmagomedov there at AKA, and also at the gym in Dagestan, defeated Leo Kuntz. Just utterly dominated. Really impressed by Makhachev.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same Nurmagomedov game. It's the striking's not pretty, but it's powerful and it's accurate. And then when he gets on you in the clinch, gets a hand on you, his dirty boxing is great. His chain wrestling is great. His grappling is super aggressive. The big thing I saw to him that I really like is that he's really actually quite good at throwing a check hook, moving backwards.
Yes.
That'll make him very hard to beat down the road, because guys are going to say, if I'm going to beat this guy, I got to come after him and pressure him. And if he can hit them while he's moving away, that's a big thing in his favor.
And hit him really hard. Make them hit him, basically. He's using their impact and just brilliantly. And then the first 2 fights on the prelim, Fox Sports 1 prelim card were probably the worst, definitely the worst on that card. You had Colby Covington defeat Mike Pyle with position. Pyle almost got a choke in the 3rd round. Couldn't do it. That was his only chance. Thoughts on that one?
Yeah, it was, like I said, that was kind of like the Scoggins win. It was a good workman-like win for Covington. He's getting rounds. He's had like 2 years of fight experience, and he's fighting somebody who's had 35 fights and been in the UFC forever. Just being able to ride out the win and stay on it and get himself out of trouble when he got in trouble and get in there with the vet and work his game for a while is going to do him a lot of good. I mean, that was kind of my take on it. He's still a blue chip top prospect. It's just he fought somebody with way, way more fight experience than he has.
Yeah, and I know it's a tough thing to do, but he looked good doing it. Now we get to the real stinker of the card. Rafael Natal beating Uriah Hall. I knew
Yeah.
when this fight was booked, two guys with that kind of bad, boring mojo, gonna be a shit show. It was. Natal, I guess, looked better than you expected going in. He actually held his own in the stand-up, got the key takedowns. But Uriah Hall is just a guy. The only way I want to see him fight again is if he's fighting in another promotion and they just feed him cans to show off his fancy kicking techniques against. I really don't want to see him in competitive MMA anymore because the guy just doesn't have the killer instinct to hang.
Yeah, I thought Hall won it, but it was not. It was a bad fight, and it was. Both these guys are so. Unfortunately, the thing that's worse to me about it is that they're so typical of like the rank and file outside the top 15 of middleweight. Like there are just so many guys that have this maddening, can lose any fight at any time style.
Yes, but not through some electrifying move.
No, just give it away. Just
Yeah.
go down for no reason with no real rhyme or
Yeah.
predictability to it. I mean, this was just like, ugh, it's the kind of fight you hate to see in MMA just because it feels so pointless.
Yeah, yeah, it was a bad one. Let us speak no more of it. The third fight on the prelim card, Dong Young Stun Gun Kim beat Josh Berkman in third round, triangle choke. Pretty good fight. Got better as it went along. Kim dominated positionally the first two rounds. Third round, Berkman had him hurt. That's really, I think, the key moment where this card really started to heat up when
Yeah.
Berkman had him hurt and Kim came back and got the triangle choke from Mount, which is usually you need to move off to the other side. So, Berkman just had his chance, couldn't seize it. Very good performance from Stun Gun Kim.
Yeah, kinda. I mean, it was. I
Whoa.
felt. Jeez.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
had a tornado earlier. Didn't touch ground, but they had tornado warnings going, and it
Ugh.
was it was some scary stuff. So if I disappear,
Well,
you'll have to finish the show.
yeah. All right. If you get carried off, then. Anyway, I don't know. This just felt like a maddening fight for me from Berkman because it was so clear at any moment that that fight was at range that Kim was just like, I think I tweeted it out when I was watching that Kim fights like his hair is on fire and that fists are the only way to put it out. And
It's
that's
true.
he just throws himself at people's hands and just like asks them to hit him as many times as they possibly can. And Berkman just wouldn't oblige him. Berkman was just like, no, I'm going to clinch up and grapple and wrestle with you and slow you down and make you fight the smarter fight that's going to get you the win.
Yeah.
And then in the third round, when he finally realized that he just had to maintain distance and beat Kim up, he just absolutely destroyed him and then gassed out and lost. So it's kind
Yeah.
of one of those things where, I don't know, like it was a great win from Kim. It was a fun fight, fun submission, but man, what a weird fight.
Yeah, yeah, it was an odd fight, and I don't really see either of these guys as really relevant in the top tier of the division at this point. But a fun fight from two veteran gatekeepers, and we've covered the whole card. Let's get back to those two title fights, though. Chris Weidman, Vitor Belfort. Who do we want to see against Chris Weidman next?
Take your pick between Jacare and Rockhold,
Jacare's
really.
got some. Jacare's injured again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
Rockhold,
Rockhold, here he
and
comes.
if Rockhold's injured, just throw Yoel Romero in there. Like I would
Yeah.
just love to see any of those three fights. I don't really care which one.
Yeah, yeah. I think Rockhold's the most intriguing to me just because of his size advantage and how fearsome he looked against Lyoto Machida. Destroyed a guy that took Weidman to decision. So I'd still have to go with Weidman though. I think the way he cuts off the ring is just amazing. Even against Belfort, even when he got hit, he was still dominating the footwork and cutting off the cage, not letting Belfort come at him the
Yeah.
way that say Luke Rockhold did. Luke Rockhold basically backed into a corner against Belfort and just got blitzed. Weidman walked him down, got caught, covered up, survived, got the takedown. So, but Yoel
Yeah.
Romero is a monster, and I would love to see him fight
Yeah, that's the kind of fight where I don't care, I don't care if it makes sense for the timing or for what, just make that fight happen someday because it would just be bananas. It would
Yeah,
be
we don't
totally
have much time either with the older
no.
Miller's age. I mean, it's got to happen soon, and so we'll see. But also, the third man in that equation, Jacare Souza, is another guy I would love to see against Weidman. Might be the toughest challenge for Weidman. I mean, he's looking really good right now.
Yeah, more so even than Rockhold, who actually like I didn't think Rockhold's striking looked that great against Machida. It was just that when they got close to each other, Rockhold just pushed him over. It wasn't even like a real takedown. He just kind of pushed him down and then jumped on him.
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit of a slip actually that he just pounced on, and but so I definitely want to see any of those three soon. And how about Daniel Cormier, Anthony Johnson? Just John Jones, please get the legal situation taken care of. Get your personal life together. Get back in the cage.
Yeah, watching I wish for the John Jones fight. I mean, Cormier will make that fight bigger than Johnson would.
Yeah.
Cormier
Oh
can
yeah.
sell that fight a lot better.
Yeah.
But from a fight I want to watch, like I want to see Anthony Johnson fight John Jones.
I did want to see that. I still want to see that.
Yeah.
And I think Rumble's the bigger threat to John Jones, even though he couldn't get past Cormier. What about Gustafsson? Do you think? I mean, if John Jones doesn't come back and we have to give Cormier another fight, does Gustafsson need a win before he gets in there?
Gustafson needs a win to me. I think. I mean, I'd just be happy they could do Gus, and I'd be fine with that if they can kind of figure out a way to make that happen. If Cormier is willing to wait, or Gus can take quick fights back to back, or if they just, I mean, giving you a title shot off a loss would just be kind of weird.
Yeah, but they did that for Cormier.
That's true, they did. So they could do Gus. Otherwise, I'd just be happy to see Daniel Cormier roll through Ryan Bader for like the shit of it.
Yeah. Ryan Bader definitely looked like, when they were showing the top 5 graphic before the fight started, it was like one of these is not like the others. And that was definitely Ryan Bader. And then from there, though, there is nobody. It falls off a cliff. Glover Teixeira, Oven St. Preux, Jimmy Manawa, Shogun Hua, Rampage Jackson. I almost said Hampage. I mean, there's nobody there. Antonio Rogerio Nogueira is in the top 12. I mean, what's Fabio Maldonado going to get a title shot? I mean, it's just, it's just sad. But we need John Jones back in a big way. But and then there's Rashad Evans floating around out there, potentially going to come back. Is he not moving down to middleweight? I mean,
no, Rashad's not moving. I think he's had another injury that he's recovering from now, and it feels like he's at the point where we're gonna get one fight and then he's gonna retire. Like that's what it feels like with Rashad. It just feels like we're just waiting. Either he's gonna get a fight, get injured before the fight, and finally just kind of drift off, or he's gonna have one more fight, maybe 2, and just kind of be gone.
Yeah, entirely likely. And I don't see Rashad Evans pulling a Dan Henderson and just getting beat up, and going back out there. I think he knows, he's had a very rough couple of years with the injuries, and also I think John Jones stole his soul.
And he likes doing the commentary work, like DC. Yeah. I mean, these are guys that have found another avenue they like and that they can do and are good at, and that the UFC is happy to have them in. So.
Yep. They're both excellent spokesmen for the sport. So, any final thoughts on the card?
It was fantastic. I mean, the main card saved it. The undercard was decent, not special, but decent. And then the pay-per-view was just, I mean, if they could make a pay-per-view like this every time, then they would never hear anybody complain about anything. All the weird shit they do. Yeah.
No, it was awesome. This is the kind of stuff they used to deliver on the regular all the time back in the 2005 to 2009 heyday. And we've had some great cards over the past couple of years. I won't deny that, but this has been the best one in a while. I mean, an exceptionally, maybe an all-time great card.
Yeah, really. I mean, you're talking about, let's see, 3 knockouts, a submission, and then a barn burner of a decision.
Yeah, and every one of those fights had major momentum shifts. Some of them multiple momentum shifts. McDessie, Cerrone, probably the least competitive, but the rest of them. I mean, the only thing you can say is, man, if Nurmagomedov had been on this fight, if he and Cerrone had put on a war, it would have definitely been one of the best cards ever. As it is, though, 2 title fights with that kind of action and that kind of, it was like having 2 used trigs on the same card back to
Yeah.
back. You know, it really was, on top of another fight that was like one of the great brawls. I mean, the Arlovski Browne fight was just a great brawl, quick
Yeah.
but savage. So
It's remarkable to think now that, like, I've almost forgotten how great a fight Arlovski Browne was, and I was calling that fight of the year right after it happened. Like,
yeah,
that's how good the 2 main event fights, the main and co-main, were.
yeah, and they way overshadow it in terms of significance and relevance too. But the Browne Arlovski fight was a great one. So anyway, it was a pleasure. Hats off to the UFC. I showing my bald head for the rare occasion. So Zane Simon, thank you very much. And remember, give us a thumbs up on YouTube. Subscribe to MMANation.com on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at the Zane Simon, at Kid Nate, at Bloody Elbow. Read us on bloodyelbow.com. Eugene will be back with Knuckle Up. There's another fight next week or 2 weeks. At some point in the future, there's more fights, and they pale in comparison. Who could think about this? I'm going to be watching this over and over again myself. So adios, MMA aficionados. We'll see you next time.